Hello everyone, welcome to the EA Global Summit 2023. This is Mugil from EA Global Summit team. I'm happy to welcome you all to this virtual event where Sparx EA users from all over the world come together to learn, work, and share their experiences. Whether you are a seasoned EA expert or just beginning your journey with Sparx EA, this summit has something special in store for each one of you. We have a fantastic lineup of prominent speakers who are experts in the Sparx EA community and want to share their experiences with you. This session will be by Daniel from LemonTree and the topic how to automatically deploy models at scale. Please remember that this event isn't about presentations but collaboration. Take advantage of the networking opportunities and discuss with fellow attendees and the speaker after the session in Slack. If you haven't received any invite from Slack or missed it, please join the Slack through the link provided in the chat box. Also, it's you to ask questions. You can do so in the Q&A window. The speaker will answer a few questions here at the end of the session and then connect with you directly in Slack. Please let us know what you thought of the summit and the talks. Based on your inputs, we also plan to recognize the speaker who received the most positive feedback. After the summit, our team will get in touch with you to hear your comments on the various sessions. If you have any feedback, we would love to hear them. Over to you, Daniel.
Yes, sure. So hi, I'm Daniel Siegel. I'm from LemonTree in Austria. And today I'm going to talk about how to automatically deploy models at scale. I'm working with customers and enterprise architect deployments for more than 15 years. And I will show you some of the stuff I do for a living. And this is really about my passion. This is less about products, or this is about my passion. This is what drives me, okay? So LemonTree is an Austrian outfit specializing in enterprise architect enhancements. We have our main office is in Vienna, Austria, but we also have a location in Houston, Texas, and we do quite substantial business in the US as well. Why do we create models? I think this is very important in the beginning. We create models to have a solid level of abstraction that we can use to collaborate on difficult topics. Be it the engineering of a car, be it business processes. All the things I show you today apply to all sorts of usages for modeling tools or modeling platforms. And this is a typical situation that I encounter. There is many models in one organization, and it's a bit hard to keep the glossaries at sync. It's a bit hard to keep the user access in sync and so on. And if you do all of this by hand, it's really a tough challenge. Or document templates, code generation templates, whatever. It's simply hard to keep it in sync if you have a host of models in various stages around your organization. Another more easy scenario is that typically when you want to deploy your model, make it available to stakeholders, you need at least 3 models. You need a working model, live model. You need a staging system where people can review, maybe even do small changes, and you need a production system, and more or less a read-only copy of the model. Again, if you do this by hand to update the staging system with the working system, it's a process, and it can fail. So again, something that we need to look at, how to automate these type of scenarios. And it sounds like a joke, but I know of a big organization that uses PDF reports they generate from the live system and then update the staging system with the changes. Not very productive, wouldn't be my cup of tea. And then we have more complex scenarios, which is like product, platform and product line development, or more abstract, a model library that shares various parts of the model across different projects. again something where you shouldn't start to update the model by hand, but you should have a strategy, you should have a way to automatically upgrade all these models and control these models. There is one answer to all of this. This is the one model school of thought. I have a bit given up on it because at least for R&D, for research and development projects, it's very hard if you have all your versions in one model. If you need to do a hot fix or use an older version of one component, the one model concept somehow doesn't really fly. There might be situations in enterprise architecture management where you can get along with one model, but for R&D and systems engineering, software engineering, I can for sure tell you one model will not really cut it. So to sort all this mess, to manage these multiple models, I need some kind of a robot, because it's simply stupid if I do all these things by hand. And this is exactly what we will talk about, is ways how you can customize, automate tasks with Enterprise Architect to better integrate it in your modeling practice, to ensure you can do stuff like staging and review repositories and and such. And first of all, it's a shift in your mindset probably. You need to be ready to invest in tool making. If Nike builds a set of shoes, it's very obvious that they need investment in dyes, in other injection molding equipment, and so on. And it's the same with modeling. If you want to start modeling, you have to invest in tool making. If you want to do a bigger deployment, a standardized deployment, some of the tools you could use is PowerShell, Jenkins, or a flavor of Git like GitHub. But there is your creativity is what really stops you. There is no limits really what you could use. But it is important to have this mindset. Don't do stuff twice. Build a script. And this is what is very common in good software engineering teams, that they have at least one guy who cares about their build scripts, who cares about their test data generation, and so on. And I think the same applies to modeling. We need to invest a little bit in the tool making to get the best out of our modeling initiatives. So what do we need to do? We need to automate. We are lazy. We don't want to do stuff twice. We want to be sure stuff is done the same all the time. So the only solution really is that we need automation, automation, automation. One very advanced example in the beginning, ProCloud Server and Prolaborate now have REST services that we could use to automatically fire up new repos on the fly. So we could build a script that automatically creates a new ProCloud repository, automatically creates a new Prolaborate site for this repository. It all can be done with REST. You don't have to write manuals how to use the config dialogues of the systems. Use the REST APIs. It's something to learn, and there is people like the group around Nisam or us who can help you. But really, it's so old school. If you have like 15 projects and you always have to create a new entry in the user interface, remember all the settings you need, why not script it? It's really not a good way to do it. You could preload the database with your templates, with your glossaries, everything. Start one PowerShell script and you have a new model for your new project. One idea, I know I start with the big bang in the beginning, but just to get you started, and don't think it's all just Git and nerdy. No, every organization can use this type of things. Another very simple example that we see very often that is not used is it's really a stupid, but I think it's a waste of my time. I can only talk for me if I have to maintain users and groups in Enterprise Architect. Why not do a one-time operation, accept Windows authentication, and link the groups to Active Directory groups, and use the Active Directory and the Windows authentication to authenticate people against my model. It's really not that difficult and gives you a lot of value, because you don't have to remember if a new guy shows up that you need your model admin to add him to the model, or if a guy leaves you, it's very simple to lock them because their Windows authentication will be locked and the model is locked. Things like this, and it really matters. It makes the difference between a successful deployment and one that's always creating work and giving you a hard time making sure it complies with all the rules our organizations have today. Template models is a general topic, and also a topic for the modeling people. Very often we see that if the people press new in Enterprise Architect, they really start with an empty model. Then they start to import templates, they start to import MDG technologies. I say it's not required. You can have one template model completely finished. Either if you're an SQL, you can have a Microsoft SQL Server repository where all your settings are done. You can have a EAP or QEAX file ready, and you just file copy or run SQL scripts to copy it for the new project, and you have a ready to use project. Or you can also use project transfer if you're not so familiar with the other strategies. And there is a lot of options how you can do this. And later down the road, if your template model changes, there is also ways either with SQL or with LemonTree automation to update the client models with the new changes from the template models. Again, something, if you do this by hand or in a manual fashion, it's a very error-prone process. If you do it automated, it's pretty safe. Also, if you use MDG technologies, my strong advice is to import them in the model. Why? Because it happens that you need to go back to an older model and check what the guys did 3 years ago. If you only have the MDG technology on your computer, the latest version, you might run into trouble reading the old model in a proper fashion. So if it matters, really import the MDG technologies always in the model or even in your template models. It's really something that pays off. You know, document generation templates, all these things belong in the template model. Another thing that I really care for is retyping information from one system to another is a process I don't follow. If there is data to be moved from one system to another in a regular fashion, please write the script or buy a commercial tool. It's really so stupid. And we have seen things in our experience that are really unbelievable. You know, people introduce Enterprise Architect to follow a certain process, and there is money involved and certifications and whatnot. And in the end, they give up on generating reports or extracting the data from the model, but they use copy and paste to copy the data from the model into a Word document that then they use downstream. This is really, it sounds almost unbelievable, but it happens. Make sure you get your data in and out in an automated fashion. There is various solutions for tools like Polarian, Codebeamer, JAMA, or AutoSAR stuff. You can do all sorts of things with custom and legacy systems. Either you write little scripts in EA, or you use add-ins that connect with Excel. It's all possible, but please never copy and paste information from one tool into another on a regular basis. But what we learned in all these years is that full round trip is a muse. So if you have data coming from Polarian, for example, don't export the same data back into Polarian later on. You might export other data from EA into Polarian, but you never change the same data in two tools. It simply doesn't fly. It has shown not to work. It also doesn't work in the real world for code generators, this full round trip, and the same applies to integration of data into Enterprise Architect from all sorts of data sources, basically. The other thing that is highly under-practiced in modeling is the validation idea. In software engineering, it's super common that you run static code analysis, that you run unit tests and whatnot. In modeling, it's very rarely that you see that people really have automatic solutions that validate their models for correctness, for keeping the standards, the agreements we made in the organization. It's very rare that you see people do this. And there is several options how you can do it. And you can start as simple as writing a PowerShell script that queries the database. Or you can write a script inside Enterprise Architect with JS script, same possibilities, but you run it inside Enterprise Architect. Or you can create with .NET, Java, or whatnot, a simple command line tool that runs your checks against your model repository. Same capabilities, bit nicer, more power than a PowerShell script, but from the principle, it's the same. And if you want to go advanced and want to do enterprise style validation, there is also solutions that work based on graph databases that are very powerful in delivering validations like the inquiry validator for Enterprise Architect. But again, try to make rules, and checking the PDF document for model inconsistencies, or if all actors have connected use cases, is really not funny if SQL scripts or other tools can do that for you. It really doesn't make sense and doesn't scale. ROI and fun, yeah. Is there return on investment? Yes, it is. And because an engineer costs roughly 100,000 euros or $100,000, and it's always worthwhile to invest 5 to 10% in ensuring the quality what the engineers create makes sense. And this should be your budget, you know. In software development, it would be stupid if you don't invest into testing, for example, or don't invest in code analysis or unit testing. It's simply not state of the art anymore. And is it fun? Yes, believe me, it's fun. You can do all sorts of things, and I think we will do some demos now. The first demo I will do is I have a diagram here, and I'm really an advocate of not coloring items in diagrams. If you color items in a diagram, please do it like every good business guy would do. They use conditional formatting in Excel. And if we want to be superior in modeling, we should also color stuff based on stereotypes, on legends, something where the diagram doesn't contain the truth, but the model contains the truth. So for this scenario, I have a little PowerShell script, the one you've seen already, and it basically checks for validations, and I can now run it. And we can see, oh, the pedestrian state machine diagram has two objects that have been colored on the diagram. And according to what I said before, this is what we do not want. So I can come here and say, use default color, use default color. I save the diagram. I rerun my script. and you can see it changed, it's gone. So the issues are just on other diagrams now. I know this might not be full enterprise level, but this is like to make you appetite, to make you feel that this is really not so difficult to do these things in the beginning, and you can grow over time and constantly improve your tool chest so you get better models that are closer to what you expect as an organization. Another thing is I like to monitor how my models grow, okay? And if there is some technical things kept in line, like the compacting, did people run the compacting on the old EAPX files and stuff like that? And therefore I have created a little open source tool. It's called LemonTree Pipeline Tools Model Check Exe. It's a free download and we can run it now. And also the source code available, and you can see it does some checks. For my rules, I don't want baselines in the model, so I would throw a warning if there's baselines, there's auditing is disabled in the model, and so on. So, and I check if the size of the model is okay by compacting it and comparing the size again. And this is the type of things I really like to do to make sure the model is consistent and makes sense. Obviously, this is very technical checks. This is more business checks, but you can also run real checks, like go here and and here you can see we ran. No, this is the wrong. Sorry, I need to click here. And here you can see we run checks according to the SAIC digital engineering validation rule set, which is real business rules. And I can click here and go to the details. And for example, I can see there is a use case that is not connected to any actor and is not a child of another use case. So this is an error in this validation. Or you can see that all flow properties must be typed by signals. So real modeling validation rules are also possible, but obviously a bit harder to create than these simple things I showed before. And the thing I showed before in the text file could also run in a pipeline. And in the pipeline, you could see it in a nice, colorful experience. I can also output some properties on the size of the model, like how many operations, how many packages, to create some statistics in a warehouse about model growth. It's all possible using these simple techniques that we discussed before. Another example is the import of ALM data. And there is many solutions how to do this. I don't say one is better than the other, but there is many variants. I show you one, basically that you can create, that you can use a commercial solution. I can configure the path to a Polarian server. In this case, it's our internal server. And I can then go to EA and import elements from an external data set in an automatic fashion. And again, something you could do with scripts, you can do with Excel as the middleman, or you can go to a commercial solution should you want to, and don't have to work yourself. But from the idea, it's the idea that counts, you know. Now I have 224 elements that will be imported from Polarian. And we can see here a nice tree view of all the stuff that is in Polarian and all the requirements that came in, including the links. This is also interesting that very often integrations don't bring in links. If we check here, you can see, maybe not here. Here you can see the braking software has a link to the ABS interface already in Polarian. And because we did a clever import that also creates connections, the connection was also created in Enterprise Architect. I always say the modeling starts in the ALM solution the first time you create the link in an ALM tool. Yeah, so this was basically what I wanted to show you for a demo. Maybe one more, which is more like LemonTree. You can use LemonTree to render all sorts of model differences. And when I click here, for example, this is now opening up in a web browser, and it's a very fast and easy way to see model changes. In this case, only the verification diagram was altered. It's rather boring probably, but you can see just the design was changed. Very quick way to understand the changes that happened, and easy to follow up. So I think you could see that this is all fun, but it needs some learning to get into these topics. And obviously the first example I showed with the creating repos on the fly with REST services is probably the most complex, but also the most rewarding. If a new project forms and they come up and say, hey, please create me a new model, and you don't need a checklist, but you just run your script with the new project name. It takes your pre-prepared template model and creates a new ProCloud server instance and creates a new Prolaborate to go with it. You're done in matter of minutes, and your checklist that you would need otherwise is basically the script you can run forever and for free once it's created. Yes, for some of these tricks, like the diff, I used LemonTree 4, which is our product and will be released later this week. And we use the web part of it, we use the Polarian part of it, and I showed a simple diff with a not very good example of a model change, but I think it was okay. Yeah, and my summary is very simple. Automate your model maintenance and creation. There is so much to gain, so little to lose, and it really helps you to make more sustainable modeling practices in your organization. And from my heart, I really feel much more model validation should happen in the world because models that are not validated are just drawings, and that's what we don't want. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah, Daniel, thank you so much for your presentation. So we are yet to receive questions. If there are any questions coming up, we can post it in Slack followingly.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Let's wind down the session over here, and then we will connect in Slack for Q&As. And I'm just helping with few participants for for letting them to join in Slack. There is some technical issue in Slack, it seems, so I'm just figuring out with bringing them into Slack. Hopefully, I'll be able to help them out soon.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your valuable insights. I also want to acknowledge the active participation and engagement of our audience. Thanks, everyone. As always, if you have any questions to Daniel, Daniel will be connecting with you guys directly in Slack. Please feel free to drop your questions and make the best use of the opportunity in Slack's meeting room. Thank you, everyone, for your active participation, and I look forward to seeing you in the Slack channel and in the future sessions of the summit. Thank you, everyone.